If you want to talk about Pan That Palette for 2022 and help me with my plan, then stick around. If you... Allô, Silhouette! Comment ça va? Tu viens dire allô? Oui, tu viens dire allô? Bonjour. Bonjour. T'es une bonne fille? Oui. Silhouette just came for a visit and it was just so cute. I caught some on video. I hope I'm going to be able to put it into the video here. If you want to see a little bit more about my four-legged friend, she's a wonderful dog that I've had for a number of years now, and she is my absolute companion, and she's just decided to leave the room. Anyway, back to the video. If you are interested in helping me with my Pan That Palette progress and plans for 2022, this is the video for you. If you have not heard yet, hello and welcome to HMM Makeup or Makeup. My name is Hélène and I like to do a whole lot with eyeshadow, and I do also participate in a number of panning projects, and Pan That Palette is definitely a panning project. The reason for this video is that I did a recent Pan That Palette update, which I will put right there for you, and I identified that there were some issues with this palette because of its age, and I do need to have more to pan than this palette. And I'll show you where I'm at with it, and you'll see that there's not a whole lot left in this palette, and the darker shade that you see right here is only usable in my brows. And today I'm wearing this color right up here, but I think you can appreciate that there's very little left, and these two squares right here are actually a buxom highlight that I spread across two pans to make sure it could fit in this palette. There's not a whole lot left in this palette. I do have a companion palette for this one, but as you can see, there's not very much left, and within a month I will barely have enough to make this palette usable in any way, shape, or form. So because of that, I have started using the Metal Matte from KVD Vegan Beauty, and it is a perfectly fine eyeshadow palette, but I don't think that that is going to be sufficient for me as far as shadows to have as a Pan That palette. I will definitely use these mattes, and these to me are not day-to-day type of shadows. They are enhancer shadows, and so I want a third palette to play with because the Smashbox Matte Exposure, the one in the black packaging, is going to be out of my collection pretty soon, and I want to have something other than just this one to play around with for 2022. So that means I am going to put a request for input on my channel page. If you are not quite sure where to find a channel page, you can go to a YouTube channel's main page. Just click on channel as the header, and you'll go in there and you'll see whatever the YouTuber posts in chronological order. There I will have a survey after I publish this video. You can go to the survey and choose one of the palettes that I'm going to show you in this video. So let's get into it. Alright, so I said I was going to do a survey, but let me just refine things. I was changing the camera battery and had a couple of minutes to think. And there's a survey option on the channel page where I can ask people to choose among 5 things. But I think I'm going to do the same thing as I did for the selection of this one last year. I am going to show you 5 palettes, and I'm going to ask you to choose 3. Your favorite one gets 3 points, your second favorite gets 2 points, and your third favorite gets 1 point. So 3, 2, and 1, and I will do a weighted average and see which palette comes out on top. I hope that makes sense. I will have the details on the channel page. Once this video goes live, I will have the channel page survey up. And what I'll ask you to do is go in the comments and give your 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point to the 3 palettes that you're interested in. If you are only interested in one, tell me the same palette for 3, 2, and 1, and your palette will get a total of 6 points. Or if you want to choose 2 palettes, maybe you want to choose one at 3 points and another one that you give the 2 and 1 point to. Just let me know how you're using your 6 points. I hope that makes sense. I will, as I said, have the instructions on the channel page as well, again, right at the point where this video is published. So now, of course, I have 5 palettes that I want to have along with the Metal Matte from KVD Vegan Beauty to use throughout 2022, given that the Smashbox Matte Exposure is almost finished. And if you're curious, I am wearing some of these palettes on my eyes today, and I will tell you as I'm going along. So the first, they're in no particular order. They're mostly in order of how I could stack them. And so they're pretty much from smallest to biggest. So let's get into it. The first one is one from Sigma, and it's the Rendez-vous palette, Rendez-vous eyeshadow palette. And it is a total of 6 eyeshadows, some shimmers and some mattes. And I think that that is quite a pretty palette and very usable palette. It's nice to be able to have it around. So it's small and easy to have as a travel palette. So that is number 1 out of 5. And the next one is also quite slim and sleek, but that's not why I picked it. It's the Basic Bitch from MAC, and it is a gift. It was a gift from Lillian, a friend of mine who's also big into makeup. But the reason I picked it was not because it was just sleek, is because it is a cool tone palette. And I think it's really neat to work with cool tones just as much as it is to work with warm tones, and it has a very nice big highlighter here. The colors are quite nice, and I would definitely enjoy playing with this palette as a pan matte palette. I think it would be a nice contrast to a lot of warm shadows that I've been working with over the last couple of years. So that again is the Basic Bitch palette. Lousy name, but I like the color story in this one. The next palette is one that I have very much on my eyes today. I have a mix of the Smashbox Matte Exposure and this one, which is the Ciaté Glitter Storm. I think this is a beautiful palette. And I have this shadow right here. And I have this shadow right here. So this one in the outer lid, outer crease, and then this one on the inner to 2/3 of the lid. And I think it's beautiful. Oh, and I also have this this same purple, not only on the upper lid, but also on the lower lash line. And I think it looks really, really nice. So this one, again, I think would be a nice one to work with. A couple of cooler tones in here as well. I think it would be a very nice complement to the Smashbox Matte Exposure and the KVD palette. This, actually the next two, I was going to say this one, but the next two are palettes that I don't think are all that widespread as far as having been purchased. This one is a Becca palette, the Volcano Goddess. And the reason I picked this one is because there are a bunch of neutral shadows that would make it easy to use up the palette, namely these 9 right here, and then I have a punch of color if I want it. I think it would be a very easy palette to pan. So that's why I'm including it. And I also really like the packaging. I think it's a really nice palette, very sturdy palette, and it might be a palette that I want to repurpose and reuse by filling it up with eyeshadows, just because I really like the design of this palette, and I think that it's indescript enough that I could reuse it and really enjoy that process. And the final one is a palette that I'm a big fan of, and I I've had it on my list of palettes to pan for a while, and it is the Ciaté Chloe Morello Volume 2, and this is what it looks like. A lot more colorful than some of the other palettes I showed you, and it has cool and warm tones really in this, and it's a palette that I'm really quite fond of and would like to get the most use out of before the shadows get too old. I really love this color. I love these guys right here. This is a beautiful, beautiful shimmer. There's a lot to this palette, and it's quite a few colors, 20 colors, so I wouldn't get bored of it for quite some time. And it's quite sleek and compact, and even though it's quite wide, it's still very easy to bring along if I wanted to. So let me just recap really quickly. So the one that I am closest to finishing is the Smashbox Matte Exposure, and if you haven't seen the latest Pan That palette on this palette, I'll put it right there if I haven't already. And to go with that one, I am currently using the Metal Matte by KVD Vegan Beauty. You've seen it as well earlier in the video. And let's just take a quick look at all 5 of the other palettes, the 5 that I am asking you to vote on. The Sigma Rendez-vous palette. That's on the warm side. The Basic Bitch palette by MAC. The Ciaté Glitter Storm palette. The Volcano Goddess from Becca. And finally, the Chloe Morello 2. So again, I will give you 3 options for distribution of your points, 6 points total, 3 for the top palette, 2 for the middle of the road palette, and 1 for the third palette. You could allocate all 6 points to one palette or distribute them as you like as your first, second, and third choice. And it will all be tabulated as a weighted average, and the top palette, the palette that I will use with the Smashbox Matte Exposure, the Metal Matte, that is what is going to come out of that assessment. So yeah, I am already saying thank you in advance for your help in figuring out which palette is going to accompany essentially the KVD Vegan Beauty Metal Matte palette, because the Smashbox Matte Exposure is virtually done. And yeah, I look forward to hearing, tabulating, and finding out with you which palette wins it out. And I think that the voting will be up for about a week. And I will then come back on camera and tell you what won and why, and go from there. That is it from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If there's anything that doesn't sound clear, you're confused about, please let me know, and I will try to clarify in a pinned comment. But yeah, I look forward to your engagement. I look forward to hearing from you in the channel chat. And of course, if you want to do the 3, 2, 1 rating below on this video, that's fine too. So you can do it on this video, and you can also do it in the ranking that I'll have on the channel chat. The only thing I ask you is to please pick one. Don't vote twice, because that's just, I'll just drop whichever second set of answers you give me, I'll just drop that one. So just answer once, either under the video or in the channel discussion, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much in advance for voting on the palette on the palette or palettes that you are interested in seeing me pan this year, and I can't wait to report back. With that, I will say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it every single time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.